Hey guys, this is Kelsey with Kelsey Freeman Photography, and I am going to be editing this picture right here using Photoshop. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to talk about is what's up here in this top corner of the picture. That is my hand. If it's a really backlit image and I'm not using any sort of off-camera flash or anything, then I like to put my hand up to kind of cover up the sky. And in doing so, I'm not going to have this crazy overly hazed picture. It looks like this. So it just kind of helps with being able to see your subject more clearly. So I put my hand up there in front of my lens to block out the sun. So I want to get rid of that. I'm also going to be adding in a sky in the background. So I'm just going to paint over this with the similar color here in the background. So I'm just going to grab a paintbrush right here, and I'm going to use my eyedropper tool to check just for a color in the sky. And I'm going to use my paintbrush. Also, just so you know, I use keyboard shortcuts a whole lot when I edit. It just helps me edit faster. So I press I to get the eyedropper tool. I press B to get brush. My opacity here, I want it at 100. So normally I would push 0 on my keyboard to get me 100% opacity on my brush. So anyway, I'm just going to brush along here and get rid of my hand and any other like extra colors going on here in this background because I am going to be putting a sky and I want like a nice solid like white sort of background. So I actually ended up taking a picture of this sky while I was at this location. So I'm just going to use the exact same sky. It was taken, I don't know, a few minutes prior to this image, but I'm going to use this. So I'm going to press Control A to select all, and then Control C to copy. And then I'm going to come back over to my picture and press Control V to paste. So I want to get the sun kind of in the same spot, so I'm going to follow the mountains. This looks like it was probably around here or so. I'm going to put it about here. I want the sun kind of out and about a little bit more. I am going to drag it down a bit. And something I want to do is add a layer mask. This is very important. Actually, hold that thought before we add the layer mask. I do want to blur this background of the sky so that it kind of blends in with the blurriness of my background here. So as you can see, because I was using a lower aperture, the background gets pretty blurry in the distance. So we want to make sure that the sky matches the blurriness. That's one of the most important things you can do when you are adding in a sky overlay. It gives it away. Every time you use the sky overlay, if you don't blur the sky to where the clouds and everything are just as blurry as they would have been in the original picture. So I am going to go to Filter, and then I'm going to go down to Blur, and then I'm going to click on Gaussian Blur. And you can just slide this around depending on how blurry you want your sky to be. But I think this is pretty spot on. I may increase it just a little, maybe about there. So it's nice and blurry. And I'm going to press OK. You also don't want to over blur either because that'll give it away as well. So I'm just going to scroll this on down, and I'm probably going to put it, I don't know, right about there or so. And then I want to add on a layer mask so that way I can brush off the parts that I don't want. So I'm going to click right down here on the layer mask button. It's a little square with the circle in the middle. And you see it already just put a layer mask on top of the sky. And I'm going to grab my paintbrush here. And because the layer mask is white, I want to use the opposite color to hide parts of this layer that I don't want to see. So I don't want to see all the mountains here and the tree line. So I'm going to use a black paintbrush with 100% opacity. And I have a soft edge, so it's nice and feathered. And I'm just going to brush off these trees from the background. And that's pretty good. Now we're going to keep working on this until it looks just right, but I just wanted to go ahead and get that black, tree line and everything out of the way. So next thing I want to do is change the blending mode of this layer so that I can really see some of the trees and stuff in the original picture. So I'm going to go down to darken, and you can see it has already brought these trees out. And I'm going to go back to my layer mask here, and I'm going to make it pretty big. Now, one thing you'll notice by looking at the original image, that back in the distance of images, the tree line and just parts of the way distant are going to be more hazy if it's like a really sunny day, so it's gonna look a good bit hazier, especially down here near the ground. So I want to continue that with the sky. So what I like to do is I make my brush pretty big, and then I'm going to lower my opacity of my brush down a good bit, maybe to about 30 or so, and I'm going to just start brushing around the bottom like so. I may make my brush a little smaller here, and just a little goes a long way. I'm just going to start brushing and brushing until it's a nice kind of uh, faded look. And I'm going to keep going around these trees. Now, I am going to change my color back to white because I want to add a little bit of sky here back to the bottom there. And I'm probably going to just do like 10% opacity. Nothing crazy here. But just to add a little bit of the sky back to that area, I think I took a little bit too much off. And I'm just going to kind of run this along like so. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing I did a minute ago. Just kind of get a big brush. Use maybe about 30% opacity. I don't like that. And just kind of start brushing off around this area like so. Also, I'm going to get 100% opacity and make my brush small and just make sure none of that sky is caught up in her hair or anything. Let me redo that because I went a little out of my hair and you can see. Okay. So zooming back, I do want to remove still a little bit more. So 30% opacity, large brush, just to kind of remove some of that. Maybe that was a little much. Let me just kind of go right down here to the bottom. And then maybe lower the opacity of the overall sky a little bit so it's not like bam in your face. But I like it. It adds something to the picture. And it was what was originally there in the sky, so I just think it's really fitting. So now we can kind of start working on the image and just really bringing it all together. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten this because I want to start fresh with a flattened layer here. So I'm going to right click and press flatten image. And now I'm going to open up some actions here. And I am going to start off with using the Wander collection, Photoshop actions. Let me go to the top so you guys can see the tippy top. All right, so I'm using the Wander collection. And I'm going to scroll down because I actually want to start off with skin actions on this picture. So I'm going to press overall brighten and press play, and it just lets you know that you want to use a soft white paintbrush, not too crazy high opacity. So I've got a white brush here. My opacity, I'm probably going to start off at 50% and just kind of brush on top of her skin like so. All right. And you know what? Actually, let me undo that. I'm just going to do all of it. I'm going to include her outfit in this as well in the brightening because it could all stand to be a good bit brighter. Normally in an instance like this with this image, I would be using off-camera flash, but I didn't for this image, so I'm having to pay for that with a little bit of extra editing. So just going to brighten all of this up a little bit here. I don't want to go crazy with the brightening, but enough to kind of bring her out from the darkness a little bit. And I'm going to flatten. When you're using most of my actions, you can layer them and add on top, as much as you want. But for the skin actions, you definitely want to make sure that you flatten before you run another skin action. Just because of the way I make them, you really need to flatten the images. So I do have a flattening action right here just to make it easy for you if you're doing a lot of skin stuff. So what I want to do next is I want to smooth skin. And I'm going to press play. And again, it's just letting you know to use a soft white feathered brush at low opacity, but I'm actually going to use 60% opacity on her. So I'm just going to hit all of her skin. I am going to leave details out like the crease in her arm as well as her tattoo. And I try to be careful around collarbones and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here so I can tackle her face really quick. So I'm just going to kind of go around. You want to make sure as well that you are not getting eyelashes, eyebrows, important creases around the mouth, as well as the lips, any of that. And the nose can be tricky as well. So just try to steer clear of the nostrils and things like that. All right, because it will just look really fake if you end up smoothing out all of those important lines. All right, and then I'm going to get her legs. Awesome. All right. Super quick, super easy, and it gives me the look I want. I'm going to run over her thigh one more time just to really make it nice and smooth. Love that. Okay, so I'm going to flatten. So I'm going to click flatten for me, press play. And next thing I'm going to do is bring out her eyes a little bit. So I'm going to click eye detail and press play. Now I know you can't see her eyes, but I like to bring out the detail in the eyelashes. And I actually use this on the face as well. Or I'm sorry, the lips. So my opacity is at 100%, and I'm just, I went a little crazy there. I'm just going to brush this on top of her mouth as well as her eyelashes and her eyebrows. And sometimes I try to hit like around where the nostril is as well. It just kind of helps add a little bit of detail. Again, flatten for me. I'm going to check out skin contour and see how this looks. I may not use it. We will see. This is kind of how I edit every picture. I never really know what I'm doing. Yeah, for this picture, I'm not thinking I'm feeling skin contour as much, but skin pop probably so. So let's see here. All right, and I like to hit the hair as well when I use Skin Pop. And I'm actually using this and just going over her outfit as well. There we go. Just kind of bringing everything out a little bit. Awesome. And then I do want to run, let me flatten this, and I want to run less green skin because up here around her hair and stuff, I'm going to use like, I don't know, maybe 20% opacity. It just has a super green tint to me. And so I want to get rid of all that green. Perfect. And then I might do like cool down skin around here around the bottom. Let's do maybe 20% around her legs. Okay. And maybe less yellow skin around her legs as well. Okay. So let's see how that looks. Color looks much better to me. Okay. So let's flatten that. And let's see what we want to do here with actions and see kind of what direction I want to go in here because I have no idea. So I'm actually going to start off with a base action from the Arden collection. And I'm going to be running smoke. So I'm going to click that and then press play. And I am going to lower the opacity of it a good bit because it's a little too much for what I'm going for. So let's bring that on down, maybe about 50 or so. And then I'm going to go back up to the Wander collection and I'm going to use a tone add-on. I'm going to do Kodiak and press play. And then again, I'm going to lower the opacity. So let's bring that down about there. And I want to brighten her body up again a little bit more. So I'm going to go back down to the skin actions and click on overall brighten and press play. And I'm going to grab my paintbrush here and make it a good bit smaller. And let's zoom in here. And I'm probably going to use maybe 50% opacity. So let me actually zoom out a tad so I have her whole body in the frame. And I'm just going to brush over her body as well as her clothing just to bring all of that out a little bit more. So brush it on, super easy, super, super quick. All right, that looks pretty good. There we go. So next thing I want to do, you can see down here her legs are pretty orange looking. They were just in a good bit of shadow, and the way I brightened it and things just kind of made them look a little bit orange. So I'm going to take that back a notch. I'm going to click right here on this vibrance tool. It's like an upside down triangle, and I am going to lower my saturation a good bit, maybe about there or so, but I want to up the vibrance just a tad just to bring back some of the color, but not so much of the intensity. And I've got my layer mask here, so what I'm going to do is I want to basically hide the entire layer of this desaturation, and I just want to brush it on top of her legs. So I'm going to click on my layer mask, I'm going to press Control I on my keyboard, and that's going to invert the entire vibrance layer. And now I can grab my paintbrush. I'm going to use a white paintbrush since my layer mask is black. And I'm going to bring my opacity all the way to 100. And I'm just going to brush on top of her legs here. And I'm going to get some of this of her overshirt thing as well. Maybe I went a little too far, so I'm going to get like 50% opacity, get a black brush, and kind of go over that part. Much better. You can see now like her legs aren't so like in your face orange. Okay, let's add on a sun. So I'm going to go back to my actions and let's go down to the Arden collection. Right here where the suns are, and the sun I'm going to use is Little Vivid Sun. So you have the option to do Vivid Sun, which is really big, but for this instance I just want it little, and I'm going to put it right around where the sun is, about here or so. It's just behind the clouds, so I'm actually going to put it maybe right there, and then I want to brush this off of her hair. So I'm going to grab my paintbrush, bring my opacity up to 100, and I've got a black paintbrush because my layer mask is white. And I'm just going to start brushing like so. That way none of that sun is like crazy on top of her. So that looks good. I might actually lower my opacity maybe to about 20 and add a little bit of that sun color on top of her hair. Like so. So it's nice and golden. I like it. All right, so let me hide that sun so you can see what that did. So it looks really good. So here's before the extra actions and stuff. Oh, you know what? I do want to do one more thing. I want to add in a little bit of softness to the ground. So I'm going to come up to the Wander collection, and in the vignette section, there is soft brown ground. So I'm going to press play, and it did all that work for me. I'm not going to have to do anything. All right, so I like that so much better. So before color adjustments, after color adjustments, I really like how that looks. And then I want to do a final few tweaks to her skin, and then we can probably call it a day. So I'm going to flatten this, and let's work on the skin a little bit more here. I really just want to maybe do some dodging and burning, just to really make it pop. So I'm going to duplicate this background layer, so I'm going to press Control J. You could also right click and hit where is it? Duplicate layer right there. But I just press Control J. It's easier. So here we go. You've got your dodge tool and your burn tool. Your dodge tool is going to brighten and the burn tool is going to darken. So I'm going to start off with brightening. And I'm going to come over here to like the edge of her shoulder over here, where it says high. And oh, also you want to make sure you pay attention to the range here. So you've got shadows, midtones, and highlights. I'm on highlights right now. I just want to affect some of these highlights that are already going on in the picture, like around her shoulder and maybe around her nose as well, like right around there. And then let's come down here, and I want to get some of the top part of her belly because that was a little much, because it is naturally brighter there. Okay, and let's see here. How about let's do some darkening. So let's go to Burn Tool, and where it says Shadows on the range, that's what I want. So I'm going to kind of darken up this part of her nose a little bit. I'm also gonna, let's see here, let's darken up just kind of around the edges of her arms and stuff. I'm going to get on the bottom of her belly, and that's probably more so a mid-tone, so I'm going to click mid-tones here and darken that up. All right, same with this part of her arm. Might want to redo that. And let's see here. I'm going to grab the dodge tool, and under mid-tones, I'm going to come to her face and work on this a little bit. So just kind of brightening up like her forehead area, her cheek. Maybe I'll get her chin a little bit. Gonna kind of brighten up all of that. All right, and let's do a little bit more darkening on her tummy. So let's go, we'll do midtones again. And I'm just gonna kind of darken up down here around the bottom, like so, just to really kind of make it pop more. And the reason that I have this duplicate layer is just so I can look and see kind of what I'm doing and just make sure that I like the direction I'm headed. So it's looking better. And then I'm going to flatten this. And there's something else I want to do just to really like make her legs look really good. And basically, it's kind of patchy here and there, just with some, just like everybody's got a little bit of like cellulite and things like that. So I always try to get rid of that for expecting moms if I can. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this layer again. And I'm going to click right here where the spot healing brush is and go down to the patch tool. And it's really easy to do. You're just going to kind of select some areas and go to another area. And I'm going to feather this just so that way I'm not only selecting from this spot. It's kind of going to be feathered and like a lower opacity, so you see through to the background a little bit. Just makes it more soft and blended. So I'm going to press Control Shift F and bring down this fade a little bit. And I'm just going to do that a few times here and there around her leg. Just the same thing. I'm just selecting new areas. And I'm trying to keep in mind where I'm selecting from. So I've got like areas that I'm selecting from as well. So just kind of going to keep doing this for a minute until her legs look really nice and consistent. And this to me makes a huge, huge difference. It just going the extra mile sometimes for your clients. They will be super appreciative. So just kind of work my way around. I'm going to grab some of this stuff down here too. And work around this area. All right, almost done. Kind of get that part of her leg. And then maybe right here. All right. And that's probably about good on her legs. Let me zoom out. So it's much better. You don't have all the patchiness, you see? Love that. And I'm going to do that on her head as well. Just kind of around this area. I'm actually going to use her forehead to sample. Especially where it's kind of darker. There we go. So yeah, if you have like just a nice smooth area of skin to work with, then go for it. So yeah, let me show you the before and after there. It just kind of helps get rid of some of those spots on her face. All right, so let's flatten this. Loving it so far. I think we're just about done. Okay, so the last thing that I think I'm going to do is get rid of a little bit more of this red skin that we have going on down here on her leg. So I am in the Wander Collection Actions, and I clicked on Less Green Skin. I'm going to press play. I'm going to grab a paintbrush here, and my opacity I'm going to put on like 30%. And I'm just going to brush this over her leg and a little bit of this area down here where it's really, really red. Let's see. Oh, I was like, that does not look right. Okay, forgive me for I am a little sleep deprived. We don't want less green skin, we want less red skin. Okay, I was like, why does that not look good? Okay, I'm going to click play. We're going to do this again, except this time less red skin. Okay, there we go. I was like, wait a minute, hold up. This looks horrible. Okay, that explains it. Much better. All right, so we got rid of that red skin. And I think that is about good. I may want to add a little bit more saturation back to her lips. They just look kind of on the darker side. So let me grab a little vibrance here. Just kind of bring it up, maybe bring up some saturation. And then I'm going to invert this entire layer here. Bring my brush size down. Hit zero on my keyboard for 100% opacity on my brush. And I'm just going to brush this on top of her lips. And I might even do like, I don't know, 20% opacity. Just go over her face and her hair. So let's see. That's better. I'm gonna even go over her whole face one more time. I kind of like bringing out some of those colors. Yeah, there we go. All right, much better. Okay, so let's flatten. And I think that's done. I think I'm pretty happy with this image. So anyway, obviously it doesn't normally take this long to edit a picture. I took my time, tried to explain everything to you guys, so you can get done with one of these pictures, one of these edits really quickly. But I did want to kind of break it down for you so you guys know kind of how to use certain tools and things like that. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this, and thanks so much for watching. All right, bye.